wanna do is interview Kristian Bush and Andrew Hyra today on the Music Universe podcast.
Don't quit your day job for a singing career, man.
No. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I hear you might be quitting your day job to run a kitty adoption farm over there.
That's what it seems like around here. You know, rescuing a couple and rehoming them, hopefully. But not if my daughter has it her way.
She's gonna have it her way.
Can't.
I think you have a soft spot where she's concerned. And you know, once a cat. I speak from personal experience. Once a cat worms your way into your home, it worms your way into your heart at the same time. You're not parting with the kitty that you've grown attached to. You can part with the one that has behavioral problems, no problem. You can figure out what to do to rehome that. But that one that everybody in that house has fallen in love with, I'm sorry, you're stuck with it.
No, I don't know. I've got enough pets. I've got a whole doggone zoo around here. But, you know, I play it by ear. That kid pretty much gets whatever she wants.
Yeah. So, kitten that is stealing your heart, daughter whose heart would be broken. The scales are in your daughter's favor. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to admit it, folks. He doesn't. You hear it here.
Who does?
I am sending this link to your daughter. And she's going to listen to it, and then she's going to nag you the rest of the week. But here we are.
And then we're done with this podcast.
You know what, though? We're at number 50. Yes. And the freaky thing is, back in the middle of the lockdown, because we're airing this one more time sensitive to when we record it. Back in the middle of the lockdown, we did like two, sometimes 3 a week. Just because we had so many, we couldn't churn them out fast enough.
Sometimes that many a day.
Yeah. So, well, we had them. No, I'm talking that we would air them sometimes 2 and 3 a week. So now, oddly enough, despite in the beginning having been a little inconsistent with it, I don't think you released one every week in the beginning.
No, we did.
We're at number 50, and we're really close to a year into the podcast. So we did something amazing. We caught up.
We did, because we're literally almost a year into the first episode too. And we're literally caught up here with two really cool guests. One we've been excited about for quite some time. We've been trying to get them on here, and we just had to magically put them at number 50, even though it's a week after the album was released. We saved it for 50 for, you know, special purposes, really, because we're there, and super excited.
Yeah, we had to hold it for timing.
Yeah, last week the album came out, and they thought it was lost.
Yeah.
I love that they tell the story. Of course, we've reported it, so if you've read our website, if you've read other press sites, you'll see that the album was thought to have been lost, but thanks to COVID, you know, it does have its ups, I guess.
Thank you, COVID.
Kristian Bush found it. And now they can't go back and remaster, he said. But
he
they
found
can't go back and
WAV files. He found WAV files.
So
and when he said that, I'm sorry,
it's already mixed.
Yeah, I got to interject here. I'm like, oh my God, he's literally releasing a burn of a CD that he did years ago, and I'm having like flashbacks. I remember yesterday I'm sitting here doing the interview, and I'm having flashbacks to like the mixtapes that I had on the CDs for like long car rides and stuff. Like, it's better than that. And he managed to do stuff, add to it, and they're going to have a vinyl release with it.
Yeah, but I want them to talk about the vinyl release because it's really cool.
Yeah.
And in fact, my favorite part about the interview is probably that they were in the middle of cutting vocals and stepped aside to chat with us. That really warms me.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool to know we caught them in the studio. And they even, I want to point this out if you catch it, they said that they had been sort of quarantining like the sports players who have returned to sports. They kind of took that protocol to be able to record together. So it's a really, really cool. You could tell they're so excited to be reunited. Kristian Bush, of course, started his career. His first mainstream success was Billy Pilgrim. Then he had Dark Water. And then, of course, we know him for the little country music band called Sugarland, which is my favorite country duo ever. And then, of course, Andrew Hyra, who I'd love to talk to just one-on-one, because they had all that success in the 90s. And then he went off and became a carpenter. He went to work in manual labor. But music, and we talk about this, it's more than just a hobby to him after all these years later. He still loves it very much and wants...
Yeah, but tell his wife that.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's introduce Kristian Bush and Andrew Hyra on the podcast. Kristian Bush and Andrew Hyra, thank you for joining us on the Music Universe podcast. How are you gentlemen doing?
We're fantastic. We're enjoying the music universe.
Well, we appreciate it. Now, I know you guys are in the studio right now. Could you talk about that a little bit? I know you guys are in the middle of some vocals and stepped aside to chat with us. We greatly appreciate that.
Of course. Happy to be here.
Our pleasure.
So what was the song you were doing?
Yeah. What we actually have an album that we're putting out that we recorded a while back, and we never really got the chance to release, and it's called In the Time Machine. And during the process of sort of teeing it up to release, we realized we'd love to hear this on vinyl. And it was one of those things where it was just a little too long to put on one side and a little too short to take up all four sides when you turn it into a double vinyl. So Andrew and I traditionally mean that means we get to make more stuff, which makes us happy. And so we got a chance to add 3 new recordings, and we were just doing the vocals for one of those.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Will that be on the vinyl only, or will it also be on the CD and digitally?
It should be on vinyl only.
Ooh. What do you guys make of this resurgence? We actually covered it this week. You know, vinyl sales are up these last 5 years. What do you make of the resurgence in vinyl, and what drew you to do a vinyl-focused project?
What do you think, Kristian? You take that one.
Oh, okay. I think that music it's really rough these days to not hold something in your hand. I mean, we're at the point where you're not even holding an iPod anymore. You're just kind of holding your phone, or, sometimes there's not even a cable between your headphones. And so it's as if the music is falling from the sky straight into your head, like it's coming through a chip. So there is something about the feel and the weight and the touch, and even, the fun of holding music in your hand again is kind of joyous. I think the resurgence has been going on for a while. I mean, this is not new, but I think it's cool that you can feel the weight of music physically, and I think kids, didn't really get that. Kids today, like even my daughter is, an early teen, and she loves it. It's just for whatever, and she considers it special. Like the records she doesn't quite like enough, she won't buy on vinyl, which I think is a pretty good thing to teach your kids, which is, the awesome one you need to make sure you get the great version of.
Right. And, the other thing that happens is you create a ritual around an album to listen to it that is special. It's not just disposable, right? I mean, you got to sit down at your turntable. You have it in a special place in your house. And so it's got like that weight is something that appeals to me as well. And I miss that. We're from the generation where we listened to whole records, and we made a ritual of it. We made it. It meant that much to us that we would have it set off in a special place in our house.
Yeah, I'm a physical guy myself. I'm more into CDs, but I've recently gotten into vinyl, and I'll sometimes buy both if I really like it. So I completely get that whole ritual thing. It feels great to be tangible and not something that can be taken from you because of certain restrictions or licensing, you know.
It
And it
makes
just sounds
memories.
so much better too. Right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the analog just sounds so much better. It just is so richer. I always prefer that sound.
So now, how did this reunion come about? How did you decide we're going to go back in and we're going to do that? I want that to go to Andrew. What brought you guys back together?
Well, Kristian clearly has kept it up at such a high level. And, after we stopped, I kind of stopped for a while. And, I resurfaced maybe 5 or 6 years after Billy Pilgrim stopped in 2001. And I was in a band here in Atlanta called Smokin' Novas, and I've done some solo stuff. But I've kept my hand in it, and I think basically we needed the time and the space to let some things clear, I mean, and it's not that we ever had any, Kristian and I never had animosity, and we've talked about this week. We've always had a really easy working relationship, and a very trusting, a very easy relationship in that sense. I think what happened with me was I kind of got blown out by having a success when I was really new to it. So it was like, it was disconcerting to me. And so I had to put it down to I learned how to be a carpenter, which helped ground me. I needed something to be defined by that wasn't that. And the music business is very fickle for how it can define you as an artist,
Right.
Especially, with time. It's a really lucky thing to find a partner where the definition in it is the art of it, and you enjoy that. So, I mean, this week has been great for me because I've been back around my friend again, and I haven't seen him in 15 or 20 years, and we had such an amazing experience we went through. So now we're able to we're able to reminisce, and we're able to bring this back. I mean, Time Machine, ironically, is the name of the album, to bring the art back to life. I mean, physically, I saw him in 2015 or 16 in Florida at a songwriter festival. I jumped up on stage because he was playing something that we used to do, and I sang a harmony. So we had, we actually sang before we talked, and that had been 12 years since we talked, or 13 years. And then just recently, last year, my sister passed last summer, who Kristian and I both started playing music with, and he came to her service with his brother Brandon, and I just think that those confluences kind of got us back into the space of being reminded of what we had done, and COVID now has just kind of like stopped everybody in their tracks and said, yeah, it just forces you to look at all that stuff, right, Kristian?
Oh yeah. I mean, what's amazing is if you stop us long enough and stick us in our houses, we reevaluate what's important. And it's one of the pieces that it always, kind of haunted me. And Andrew and I talked about it off and on. It's just this album that we made, we gave it pretty much everything we had after having, commercially gotten so much progress, and then it suddenly came to kind of a halt. And we realized that we were serving the wrong master,
Right.
And decided to make this kind of record. And geez, why wouldn't we get a chance? If we got the chance, would we release it? And the answer was yes. And that's what we get to do right now. And geez, I had figured out so many things since I'd seen Andrew last. Like I've been through like the music business log flume, like
yeah,
from the top to the splashes at the bottom. It was awesome. I now know how to do it.
Yeah, that begs the question, Kristian. Is Sugarland the job, and is Billy Pilgrim the hobby? Is that how it's now kind of evened out for you, that maybe this is the escapism from that grind of serving that big populous master, and you can come back and come to something a little bit more intimate?
What an interesting way to ask that question. I love it. It really is. So I am one of like the really weird, rare unicorns that loves being on a major label. Like, I'm the kid who saw the radio as a magic megaphone to the message you wanted to put out there.
Right.
I've never fought it. I've never said that it was something that I regretted or hated or vilified. It was always something that it contained some weird amount of magic. It was like a magnetic tape to me. Like there's some magic in there in the transfer where I don't understand it. And I kind of, no matter how hard I try, I never got that degree at Hogwarts. I just kind of wanted to stay magic. And it's one of the things that blessed Billy Pilgrim was we were naturally commercial. Even though you might refer to us now as the other part of that, at the time, it was as commercial as Sugarland. We were just different, but they were celebrating us for what we were, not trying to make us into something we weren't. And Sugarland has really actually run the same trajectory, which is they haven't tried to make us into anything. So in a lot of ways, I got a lot of validation that I think a lot of my peers don't have. Like, hey man, would you be more like this, or you be more like this? I mean, what's great about it is that, it all came from the same music scene. So the value system has all been kind of the same, which is, holy crap, we get to do this again. Because we never got the kind of the entitlement of other music scenes. We had to fight for everything we had. And therefore we were grateful every time we got a chance to do anything, So I think Sugarland is just always like a huge surprise that they even let us do that and that we get to keep doing it. And if anything, it's not necessarily a master that I serve, but it's another party I get to go to that has also taught me how to throw parties. And I kind of want to throw the party of Billy Pilgrim in the Time Machine right now. So, I have all the information of how to do it.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to frame the question, to call music a hobby, because my wife likes to say that to me. But if you're a songwriter, it's never a hobby, and especially when you write the kind of songs that reflect, like music is my church, right? I mean, music is where I get my catharsis, where I get in touch with the divine, where I either going to see a show or creating it. So it's never quite a hobby if it's hard to explain to my wife. It's like, this is something I gotta do, right?
Yeah.
So and that's interesting when you look at it with that lens, and if you frame it as, well, Billy Pilgrim, aside from Sugarland, is what? It's this other, right? And I'm not speaking for Kristian, but it's certainly another lens of your look into the divine in your life. And
certainly, and I want to respond to that because I didn't mean to be reductive at all. I just meant two sides of the same coin and what the comparisons were. So if I came off as reductive, I apologize. That's not what I meant at all. It's just such a fascinating...
Sure. It brought that up for me because I've heard that before. Because honestly, I'm a carpenter now. That's how I've made my living. So, but I've been through this outrageously amazing experience of having, a major label recording experience. Whoa, it's just like, so the whole thing for me getting back to it is it's a whirlwind, and it's a very interesting story. When Kristian and I evolve this and push it around to when we actually make something new in this space, then the story's like, whoa. Because to me, it's like, that's really interesting dynamic, right? I mean, Kristian has all this, he's a Grammy-winning artist, he has all this experience, then he's we're contacting and creating again from me being away from it. And to me, that story is, whoa, right? That's going to be a really interesting album once we get to it. And I, like Kristian says, I'm thrilled that Time Machine is getting its shot, because now, I hear the Atlantic albums, and I never get to hear Time Machine, and it was always probably my favorite, or one of, certainly. It should sit right alongside Insomniac and Get Me Out of Here, Sweet Louisiana. To me, it's of that lineage. So,
Yeah, and speaking about the album, it was out September 4th, and we just talked about the vinyl. Tell us, I saw that 500 CDs were pressed of this and then sold in 2001, and then Kristian, you thought it was lost. Like, tell us that story, how you found it during the COVID quarantine.
Sure. The album itself, we made over the course of, I don't know, maybe even 3 or 4 years, stop-start, because we kept refining this idea of what we were doing. We even stopped and made other albums inside of it. And it was because we knew it was sacred at some point more than we had anticipated. And when you have, I always say there's a time and money contingency, like, sort of set up in the music business. Either you have lots of time and no money, or lots of money and no time. And we had no money, but we had all the time in the world. So we would come back to it and come back to it and come back to it. And that was like the first time I saw this circular collective process of mind melding of people who were chasing something. And we did it. And during the process, there were a series of tragedies, like my mom died. Brandon and I lost our mom suddenly, and then like 2 or 3 weeks later, the studio we recorded at burned to the ground, and all the master tapes went away. They all burned in the fire. And we had, thank God, we had a copy or two of the record before, and that's what we manufactured the 500 out of. And then of those 500, like, I think we sold almost all of them that weekend. And then that was it. And I was kind of looking around for him, thinking, and we had, because Andrew and I had talked, when he had referenced coming to sing at a songwriter show in Florida, and after that, we had kind of started talking like, man, we should really put that out. And we started looking around for him, and there were very few copies. And at some point, we were like, okay, well, during quarantine, we were like, we should really do this. And I was like, man, I don't even know if we have a master copy of this thing. And thank goodness we found like one WAV file digital rip of the record, but there's nothing we could do about it. Like if we wanted to remaster it, or that's maybe all we could do, we couldn't remix anything. If somebody was like, hey man, we want to put that in a movie, could you duck the vocal? We're like, nope. Like there's just, it's what it is. And it's kind of magic because of that, So what you're hearing is what we heard and what we decided on those days.
Oh, wow. That's a time machine in and of itself. Think about it.
I know.
That's
it's kind of
awesome.
creepy when you start thinking about how this whole, like the name of the album and what it is. And, sometimes you look back on your life and you're like, oh, you could see like all the steps the whole time to how you met that partner or how you achieved that impossible goal. It just, at the time, it was completely fogged in. You couldn't see how it was ever going to happen. But once you're past it, you look back and you're like, oh, it was in front of me the whole time. So, similar, this record seems like, of course, it was supposed to come out right now. And the perspective, like Andrew was reading me some of the liner notes, because I didn't even have a copy of those. And he was like, man, look what we were writing in here back then. That's exactly what we need right now. I was like, holy shit.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Did you guys update those liner notes for the new release?
I think we we updated it and it had to reduce, right, Kristian? Because it went from an 8-panel to a 4-panel.
We had to take some things out because there wasn't enough space. I guess we had gotten really wordy on our insert, thinking there weren't going to be that many people that saw it. And but what's great is we have it, and we can. There's now an internet, which didn't happen when we had a band before. There was no internet.
Yeah.
And so we can actually display all that stuff and put it all up and share it at some point.
Love that. Now, I want to kick off. We're going to shift gears here for just a little bit because they told us we could ask about Sugarland for just a minute or two, and each of us have one question for you, Kristian, each. So let's just do that, and then we'll end with more on Billy Pilgrim. But I had the chance to see you on your sort of, I don't want to call it a reunion tour because you never really broke up. You just went off and did individual projects. But your first tour in many years, I saw you at the Great Allentown Fair. I was actually covering it for this site. Buddy had seen you earlier in Bakersfield. He was taking photographs. He was the long-haired guy in the front taking photographs. How did it feel, Kristian, to be back? It's probably a similar feeling now, being back with Billy Pilgrim, to be back on the road with Jennifer, with the band, doing the Sugarland music.
Yeah, it felt great. I mean, there's something that's kind of muscle memory about playing music, and especially music you've played over and over and over again. There's something deeply comforting when you automatically know what to do for anything that you do in your life. You know, it's like an aggregate learning. Like, you're like, oh man, I already learned how to do this, and I feel so comfortable. It's maybe if you're a dancer and you're dancing again suddenly, right?
Right.
And then there was like the joy of being on stage. I've always like had some weird smile that comes over my face whenever I start playing.
And I'm guitar.
Yeah, man. And I am also like still a 15-year-old kid that loves the guitar through a giant speaker. So every time that happens, that's awesome. The cool thing I think that maybe was new was the amount of knowledge that we got to each bring into playing again when Jennifer and I mean, the same is happening right now with Andrew and I, because you're bringing your own life experience that you've had in between. Like in between, Jennifer had gone and done some acting and then some Broadway stuff, and I had produced a bunch of records and had a solo career, right? And so there was a lot of like, as soon as we started making that record, I knew exactly how to make it. You know, I mean, I think maybe when we started it, I had a number one record in the country on another artist.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, wow, okay, I can do this. I did this yesterday, you know?
Yeah.
It's just relishing in the joy of the partnership. That was what it was.
Yeah, and you guys had announced a tour earlier this year and mentioned new music. Obviously, the tour was canceled. Can we expect the new music by the end of the year, or are you guys thinking of maybe holding off until you can support it with another track?
There's good news and bad news there. The good news is I know all of the songs we did because I produced it and did all that stuff, and it sounds fantastic. The bad news is I have no idea when they're going to release it now, because, you know, record companies are all kind of left and right and they're all also trying to maneuver this kind of completely different landscape in front of us. So I'm not sure when it was coming. I thought it was going to come in September, and now they've decided to push pause on that, and that's fine with me. Whatever we best need to do to give both fans but also the music the best chance to find the most ears, that's fine with me. Yes, we will tour again, and yes, this music will come out, and I cannot wait for both.
Now, is the album done, though?
Oh, yeah, we finished it. We recorded it literally after the CMAs last year.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And much like Andrew and I, and I would say this about both of them, Andrew and Jennifer are both like top-notch singers, so they can sing while we're going. So the Sugarland records are recorded on the floor. You know, as long as it takes to play it, the whole band's there, she sings, then we're done.
Wow. That's awesome. And speaking of album releases and Billy Pilgrim and Andrew, and I'll let, since we've had Kristian talking here for a minute, I'll let you, Andrew, answer this. What led to the decision to release this now? And will you guys tour next year, or maybe do some virtual touring headed into the end of this year to promote this album. And are you releasing it yourselves, or is there a label behind it?
We are releasing it ourselves. I do think
Awesome.
that I'm fairly certain that we'll tour in back of it. I mean, that will get out to playing live and reaching out to an audience in a physical space as soon as we can. How long that will be, who knows? In between there and then, we have a couple things up our sleeve to promote kind of our newfound, active partnership again. So we have certainly some stream stuff planned, and then there's a few things in the works that we'll announce here coming up in the next few weeks. So we have plans for that as well. So as soon as we can get back to it, I can't wait to go watch music again, and I certainly can't wait to go play live with Kristian again when we can.
I love that.
Yeah, I know. We're looking forward to both.
Yeah.
Now, Kristian, you said something earlier. Sometimes you have all the time and not the money. Sometimes you have all the money and not the time. Now that you're back together, will you guys always try to make time so that there's not such a long gap with Billy Pilgrim anymore? Sounds like it. Sounds like there's no separating you two again.
Oh no! I mean, we weren't really separated before. Maybe in space and maybe in communication, but I can tell you right now, like the last 4 or 5 days have reminded me that we've been connected for a long time, and that's not going to change. What's great, I think, right now is I have been battling for a little while, a little bit of a stigma in the country music genre or at least the community, about doing more than one thing. And I think I listened a lot and had a little bit of heartbreak as I heard, you can't also be a writer and be the artist, or you can't be an artist and also have a solo career. We don't believe you that the band is still together because you guys are doing separate things. And no matter what Jennifer and I would tell people, they would be like, no, I'm afraid this is over, right? And that, I couldn't tell if it was just like people looking for controversy or whatever. But what I did learn after going through, steadfast through all of that is that, your actions really speak. A lot of times people don't, and I guess it's hard these days to trust what people say. There's a lot of distrust and a lot of strange things being said out in the world. And
Right.
you have to really look at what people do, not just what they say. And I'm aware of that as a parent, but as an artist in the country music community, as soon as I could prove that I could be a solo artist and then go on tour Sugarland and play like a solo song in the middle of the record, in the middle of the show, once you start to prove it rather than just raise your hand and say, I'd also like to be a painter, or whatever. Doing it, I think, really, really helps audiences, and it really helps a lot of the industry support you. And I'm so grateful for even that struggle, because it has really afforded me the ability to be on tour next year with Sugarland, and Andrew and I go out as Billy Pilgrim, and my brother and Benji and I go out as Dark Water, and I can do something else. It's a different thing, and that kind of permission, it was hard to earn, but I'm so grateful for it, because I think it's going to help me be a better me for all people, the fans of all the different things that I make.
And do you hope to release new solo music in the future?
Oh, dude, I had this solo record ready to go when Sugarland came back, and I stopped because, that was the right thing to do. You can't really confuse the country music at the same time. But man, I accidented into a wonderful second solo record, and it is queued up and ready to go. And whenever the opportunity is right, we'll roll that out. And I couldn't.
You know what? Just drop it. Pull a Beyonce and just drop it, like tonight.
Oh, come on. I don't really have. I'm not married to Jay-Z. I can't do all that.
Understandable. And I know we're running out of time. We would love to talk about Dark Water at some point. So if there's anything that you would like to talk on that as well, we'd love to hear that.
Well, here, I'll just tell you this. One of the coolest things that I have seen in a long time, besides this kind of odd, Dark Water, for people that are listening, is a rock band that my brother and our friend and bandmate Benji Shanks have put together, and it has some structure to it where the two of them bring me music that's already done, and I have to make up lyrics and melodies, which is kind of a traditional old like U2 or REM type of way to make music. And it's very satisfying, and it's very rootsy, and it's very exploratory and experimental to some degree, but also very rooted in songs, because I love songs. But it was asked of us to consider a collaboration on Billy Pilgrim material. So we have gotten the opportunity to go and record as Dark Water a collaboration with Billy Pilgrim. And it's one of the coolest things I've ever done.
That's like playing a double part in a movie.
Well, yeah. Well, it's like playing a double part in a movie. Yes, very much. But what's wonderful is that in doing it and in actually performing and communicating this last 5 or 6 days, I've realized that I've been doing this the whole time, but with Andrew. And then, like, he just so naturally fits into that world because he's the origination point. So it's really cool. I can't wait for y'all to hear that.
I love it. Well, Billy Pilgrim, this was an absolute joy. Please, both of you, come back for the next project and the next project. And you know we're going to come and cover you guys and see you on the road. So this was an absolute treat. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Did you think, buddy, 5, 6, 7 years ago now when you started the music, oh my God, it's been 7 years since you started. And I came along 3 years in. That means, buddy, I've been with you longer than I haven't in the site's life. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just realizing that, and it's scaring me. Did you think we'd be
Tell me about it.
you would be doing this? 7 years in, you'd get to talk to these people, because we talked offline, and I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting up here. We said in the beginning, thank you, COVID, because I now have a little mini TV studio, video studio in a corner of the house, and I wouldn't have had the time nor the money to do this if it weren't for COVID. So, did you ever think you'd get to sit and talk to these people?
Well, when I first started it, no. I didn't know where it was going to go. I would, on occasion, conduct interviews, but they would mostly be via email because I just wasn't there yet to chat any other way. When I realized I could start doing more interviews and get them off of print but into audio was when I did Garth and Tricia in person in Fresno. And yes, those were videos, but the fact that even got to happen was really cool. Yeah. And then it just kind of went from there. So then I began reaching out. I'd pick and choose who I thought I could handle just because my nerves would get to me.
Right.
And I would reach out, and lo and behold, I got a variety of people. And then we talked for a while. And then last summer, like, you know what, let's do this. Let's just do this podcast. And now it's become this. And thanks to COVID, we've had plenty of time to interview people, like we said earlier, sometimes 2 or 3 a day, many times a week. And then, we were blowing them out at 2 times, sometimes 3 times a week, because we would also have guestless episodes where we would just banter back and forth. Right. So it's been a wild ride. So, I know we're not exactly at 52 episodes at this one, although we do have enough to cover beyond that. But, coming up on that 1 year and making Kristian and Andrew number 50 is really a full circle moment, and super cool.
It's golden for the golden number, that's for sure. All right.
Yeah.
For the Music Universe podcast, I'm Matt.
And I'm Buddy. Thanks for listening. And be sure to subscribe to us wherever podcasts can be heard. And check us out weekly at YouTube for weekend notes and notable releases. And obviously themusicuniverse.com for the latest news and reviews. Take care.